Hello everyone, welcome back to Planet Coaster 2, welcome back to Utopia World. In this episode, similar to the last video, we're going to be demolishing a load of stuff. You can see I've pretty much removed this entire dark ride. I kept one set of facades that I thought were okay, but the rest of it I wasn't happy with. It was rather rushed and very, very junky. I know it's a low budget park, but we want to still take our time a little bit more with things. I think I just got overexcited because we had the western pieces. I wasn't happy with the ride vehicle that I was using before either. I think it's like the Omni Mover type ride with all the, where the vehicles just don't stop. It's a continuous loop. But it didn't really work out very well for the scenes in the ride. So I've toyed about with a couple of other rides, and turns out that this is the only one that's going to do the things I need it to do, like stop and rotate and stuff like that. I had a look at the Ghost Train as well, but that's just like a classic Ghost Train. This ride is probably more modern than the ride type that I'd like to use in this park, but you know, it's going to do what I need it to do, so I'm just going to have to sacrifice that sort of bit of believability there in order to create what things were in my head that needed to come out. If that makes any sense whatsoever. So what we're working on to start with then is a station for the dark ride. The ride doesn't get completed in this video. This is probably, I'll say, part 1 of 3 maybe for this build. But I'm starting on the station, and I'm building some custom saloon doors, which I think work very nicely for a western theme, and something that I've been wanting to build for ages for some reason. You know, when you just get an idea and it won't go away, and I'm like, I need to build some saloon doors, and they're actually a lot easier than I thought they'd be to build, because we had the perfect piece for them. It's just one of these signpost pieces. So I create a couple of these and then realise that they're not really going to be much good blocking the entrance, because guests are just going to clip through them, so they're going to have to be open. And then I decided that I want to animate these and have them as part of the ride as well. So they have to be scaled up quite a bit to actually fit the chunky ride vehicles through them. But that's fine, we make that all work. Firstly, I'm just playing about a lot with the rotating platform and layering up to rotating platforms so that I can get the door to hold open for longer. And I feel like I kind of mastered this technique in the end. So I've done another tutorial video on how to make rotating doors that stay open, which is basically a follow-up to my earlier video, like just after launch, about how to make moving doors. This video, I'd say, is more straightforward, if anything. It kind of gets to the point, but that will be coming out in the next couple of days. So if you want to see how to make these rotating doors that stay open for a bit longer, then check that video out when it comes out. Obviously, I will be editing this video to with a link to that video up the top once that has been launched, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Even played about here with trying to layer up 3 rotating platforms, but that was kind of a bit overkill, because just having to made the animation long enough that the ride vehicle could get through no problem without clipping. When I was doing this before, I was just doing it the normal way, and the door would kind of shut on the ride vehicle as it was going through. So I'm glad that I managed to master the technique of actually being able to do this. It is just basically using the rotation platforms and the event sequencer to time different animations in a way in which it forces the door to not close straight away. But yes, please, Frontier, bring us to the game a animation trigger that actually stops before it returns to its original state. That would just make everything so much easier. But anyway, I've, after lots of playing about, managed to get an animation that I'm happy with, and I have installed it now into the ride, and then just playing about checking that everything works alright. and then that leaves me with the chance to actually complete this station, as the first 5 minutes of this video really have just been animating a door, so very productive. And you know what time lapses are like, that was probably about 2 hours of work. But the rest of the build comes together a lot quicker. I didn't really have to cut too much footage out of this. I managed to build the entire station and the first room of the dark ride in this video, which is quite an achievement considering how fiddly dark rides can be. But with the layout of the ride and everything like that, I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible. There's going to be no verticality, it's all flat, and it's all gridded in a way where I've snapped, angle snapped the whole ride, basically. So there's not going to be any funny turns that are really awkward to theme, if that makes sense. So I've just realised that I say "if that makes sense" quite a lot in my videos now, which probably means that I'm talking more crap than ever, so I do apologise for that. What we're doing now then, so working on some fences and some pillars, and this is just basically to stop guests running in the track. You don't really get much room to work with this station. Obviously I could have made it a bit wider, but I thought it's not going to be a key focal point really. It's just a place for guests to load and unload. It's just functional. We've got everything we need in there, like the operator station, everything which gets covered up a bit later on. But I did decide to put a bit of theming on the other side, so you can see all this when you come and queue up for the ride. Again, I didn't want to go too crazy with things because this is meant to still be low budget. Probably taking a few liabilities a bit with the budget on this one. Probably something that the park spent a little bit more money on, but I'd rather that than have a ride that I think is crap like the last one. So yeah, we probably spent a little bit over budget on this, which means that other areas of the park are going to have to be we're going to have to wind it in a little bit. But I still think this is a believable dark ride for a park like this, or it will be by the time that it's finished. In particular, I can think of a park called Pleasurewood Hills, which I think is in Suffolk. They've got like a really low budget western dark ride. I think it's a dark ride. I can't remember if it's a shooting ride. I've been on it like years and years ago, but anyway, I believe the theming on this is kind of similar to that, and there's no way they would have a budget in that park basically for anything crazy. So yeah, I think this is believable enough as long as I don't go overboard. We're not going to be doing huge set pieces or anything like that in this one. Again, working with the tight spaces in the station, but we managed to cram in a little bit of woodwork and stuff around the operator booth and a no entry sign. I am just trying to do these little touches of realism here as much as possible, just to keep bearing in mind that realism, because it's easy to get carried away with your theming and stuff and then forget about the little bits that you need. I'm trying to do stuff that I've never really done before as well in this build. So like we put a fire extinguisher in because I felt that would be quite realistic as well. I will put a link to that in the description because it's off the workshop. I'm not very good at building stuff like that. Putting in some signs as well, so your exit sign, and obviously a sign that leads you into the main saloon, which is where the start of this ride is going to be set. Oh yeah, I haven't really talked about storyline or anything like that yet. It's the idea of this one is going to start in a saloon. You're going through, it's all quite quiet and mysterious. There's only one sort of cowboy sat in the corner. Oh, sorry, off topic there. There's the fire extinguisher. My brain's just like a sieve today, honestly. So the story, yeah, so we're going to... enter into the saloon, you've got sort of one cowboy in the corner. Everything's really quiet and mysterious. Don't really know what's going on. The lighting's quite dim. Then we see like a cowboy playing the piano. Then the idea is going to be that we go into the main part of the tavern where the bar is, and there's a couple of cowboys maybe having a bit of a scrap, a bit of a fight inside the bar, and then it will sort of go to a pretend outside area in the desert, or maybe in the cowboy village. I haven't really decided yet, but then there'll be the big fight scene. And then we'll return back to the station. And I haven't really decided how to end that story yet. But obviously the hero cowboys will win, but we need to sort of work on that a little bit more. But for the time being, yeah, I've got the scenes that I need to build sort of in my head. It's just working out how we're going to finish off the story, I think, which is the key thing. So working on some lighting here. The lighting was actually kind of annoying to do because I didn't want it too bright, but also wanted like guests to be able to see, like from a safety perspective, you need to actually be able to see what you're doing inside the station. And positioning of spotlights and stuff like that was rather difficult. We have got a lighting rack on the ceiling there as well. There is some emergency lighting on there, which is currently turned off because that would make it too bright and ruin the vibe of the whole place. But we have got everything like that in place. So with the lighting racks up high, we can add spotlights in without making it look too daft, if that makes sense. So sticking some more lighting in the queue line parts. These parts of the queue line are just going to be very, very basic. Hardly any theming, just a couple of decals on the wall, and that's about it. Because there is another part to the queue line which we've already built, which I'm happy with. I'm not going to change any of that about. I just needed to extend it out so that I could have my saloon doors, basically. That's the whole reason that the station moved. But it's also made it a bit easier to work with having that bit of space, and it means we can probably do some more backstage between the show building and the actual ride itself, which might be quite useful at some point. So with all that being said, we're moving on to the first room, the first scene of the dark ride, which is as we enter the saloon. I thought we need some nice Western type wallpaper. We don't have any of the wallpaper pieces in the game yet. I think in the first game they were part of the Spooky Pack, which was DLC. It's kind of interesting now to think of, you're starting to remember all the Planet Coaster 1 pieces, and you're thinking, I can just use that now because we've obviously got that in game. But then obviously they're not all in the game, it's just the ones from the base game, Planet Coaster 1. So it's kind of like, sometimes I think there's a piece that's just not actually in the game, and I spend ages looking for it and can't find it. But anyway, I digress. Wallpaper in, some fake windows in, and a little piano area in. This all looks pretty basic and naff at the moment, but once we have the lighting in, it all looks a lot better, I think, once it's covered up and the lighting's done. It's all about the ambience and mood and stuff, I feel like, with dark rides like this. After quite a long session of playing, this is yesterday, I started putting these tables in, and I kind of just rushed them thinking, I just want to get this done. And it's at that point that I thought, right, I'm going to come back to this later. So I had a break, I had a good 6-hour break or something, doing other stuff, and then went back to it in the evening when I had a little bit more time and focus, and I managed to come up with some tables and chairs and stuff that were a little bit better. I'm not the best at building these little props, I have to say, but I think the best piece to use for a bar stool is this aquatic dome. It works out perfectly, and then just using the info kiosk sign for the table. I find that I use sign pieces for so many different things in my builds. I feel like the sign pieces are really useful for walls, for roofs, for floors, for everything. You can use them for all sorts. I'd never think before to use them for a table, but it actually works out pretty well. So this is our sort of cowboy in the corner. These chairs are a pain to make, so I didn't record that. If you look very carefully, you can see that the cowboy has a Planet Coaster 2 puzzle from the gift shop set. So yes, I am making use of the gift shop pieces. But yeah, I find that to be kind of a fun little Easter egg that we've added in there. So moving on then, we're doing another exit sign and sorting out the piano area, because I wanted an area that could be an emergency exit, but I wanted it kind of hidden as much as possible. We do still end up putting an exit sign where it is visible from the ride, because I don't know, but I think you have to have these, because even in like Disney and Universal parks where they're trying their best to hide everything that's not theming, they want to keep it as immersive as possible, you still see these bright exit signs all around the ride. So I don't know if it's a legal thing that for safety reasons the exits have to be displayed in case of a fire, which would make sense. But anyway, yeah, that's what we're doing here. So we've got our emergency exit, and there isn't really a lot else here because the focus is just going to be on this cowboy playing the piano. The ride vehicle's going to stop here for a few seconds while you watch and listen to him play, and there's going to be some sound effects put in there as well. One of the Western sound ambience effects actually is perfect for that. It is somebody playing the piano or something like that. So yeah, and I do need to focus a little bit more on putting sound into my dark rides as well, and into various areas of my parks, because it's something I always kind of forget about because I played a game without any sound. So it's not really something that crosses my mind that much, but yeah, I do want to start focusing on that a bit more as well. Just gives it that extra level of interest, and I think you need it for storytelling as well, because there's no way I'm going to do like a full cheesy commentary or anything for this ride myself. That will all be storytelling, will be visual and like music and sound effects. So finally I got to use these wonderful fairy lights, or I don't know what you'd call these, but I call them like party lights. I love these lights. They just make me feel like of good times. Don't really know what I mean by that, but yeah, they just give me a good vibe. So putting some of those up, and then putting in another set of saloon doors. And this next room, which we don't quite get to in the video, but the next part will be the main bar for the saloon, and this is where the fight is going to start breaking out, and this is where the ride really starts getting going, the story really starts picking up. So I need to think a little bit more about how I'm going to do that sort of thing. But now it is good we've got the cowboys with the guns and stuff like that, so we can use them. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how this ride sort of continues. But for now, this is pretty much it. I do end up going back in and adding a load of more clutter pieces into this room, because I thought it was a little bit too bare bones, and I wanted it to look kind of disused and a bit eerie, but also that there's some sort of like junk that's been left around. Maybe this is a sort of back room of the saloon that doesn't get used very much or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it all out at some point. But yeah, I think as like quite soon I'm going to have to do some sort of a video where we have a little bit more look around the park and stuff as well, because we've done quite a bit of this park now. And it might do me good as well to have a look back through and see if there's any things we can change, especially with all the new pieces that we've got now. So that might be something worth doing at some point. But anyway, thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.